Okay, we are rolling. We are rolling, brother. Champions of Champions boxing talk here. Well, haven't spoke about this guy for a while. This video is going to be called, really, the next move of Manny Pacquiao and what it might be. And we're going to examine a little bit about his potential fights and the styles that, could present themselves and what Manny may have to deal with and definitely what his opponent will have to deal with. First of all, in the coming days, weeks or whatever, I'm also going to talk about potential Anthony Joshua-Tyson Fury fight and how stylistically that fight may play out. That's if we even get to that fight, because as we know in the heavyweight division, one punch can derail it all, and we know Tyson Fury has a third fight with Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua has a fight with Pulev coming up soon, who is no easy task. You have to keep focused. You have to keep ready, because if you don't, the sweet science will find you out, or in the heavyweight division, the brutal punch. Tyson Fury is suffering at the moment from what I call Manny Pacquiao syndrome. In other words, whenever he achieves something really well, people are trying to discredit him, saying that the gloves are loaded, that he was taking drugs even though he's just passed the VADA drug test. Yep. They said all this about Manny Pacquiao, didn't they, when he climbed all the weight classes and beat all their fighters up. 8 division world champion. Oh, he must have been taking this, he must have been doing that. He must have got aliens from outer space to give him punching technology that the world has never seen before. They just could not accept that this guy was better than what they were putting in front of him. And he was breaking records that no British fighter or American fighter had done, frankly. And you can tell they are really hurting right now because Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury hold all the belts in the the heavyweight division. That really ekes them. So they have to come up with conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories that make no sense. But Manny Pacquiao suffered that all his life, hasn't he? He's been tested more times, searched more times than the Afghan border. And yet still to this day, no hint of any use of performance-enhancing drugs has ever been found. This is one of the most tested fighters in the history of the sport. Right? Manny Pacquiao has passed it all. If he was guilty, he's a better hider than Bigfoot. Let's just say that. He's a better hider than Bigfoot. Is it possible? It would have to be the most elaborate situation of all time if it was true. But he's never tested positive. And I don't think he will, because I don't think it's true. Just like I don't think the Tyson Fury stuff is true. But anyway, on with Christian soldiers. There's talks of Pacquiao narrowed it down, didn't he? And I have to say, he looked pretty good in that interview. He speaks very well. He's very lucent. But the 2 fights that came to mind was Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia. First of all, let me just say this. I watched the Keith Thurman-Manny Pacquiao fight over again, and that performance, it looks better now than it did on the night, and it looked good on the night, right? We have to, Keith Thurman, when all's said and done, his feet are in the top 3 in the welterweight division. There's Pacquiao's feet, which are really good, really fast. There's Crawford's feet, which are really good and really fast. And then there are Keith Thurman's feet that are really good and really fast. Pacquiao's feet, particularly early and actually late on when he got his second wind, were better than Keith Thurman's feet. But Keith Thurman could not cope with Manny Pacquiao's feet. And that is saying something when you've got a 30-year-old who's in his prime against a 40-year-old at the time, right? What does that mean? Well, it means a great deal, because many people would speculate that had a Keith Thurman-Errol Spence fight happened, Errol Spence would have beaten Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman is vulnerable to body shots and Errol Spence is a good body shooter. That may be the case, but I'm here to tell you that Errol Spence's feet are not as good as Keith Thurman's. Errol Spence's feet are not as fast as Keith Thurman's. Right? So, a Pacquiao-Errol Spence fight, what happens if that is to occur? Errol Spence, I think, may struggle with Pacquiao's feet, presuming, because Manny's been out the ring a while now, but then again, so's Errol Spence. Presuming it's still the Manny Pacquiao that's left, the one that fought Keith Thurman, Lucas Matisse, Adrian Broner, and so forth. That is not going to be easy for Errol Spence, even if Spence comes back at his best. Because Errol Spence, as I've said, he doesn't have Keith Thurman's foot speed. He doesn't. That whether you think Spence beats Thurman or not, that is true. He struggled with Sean Porter's speed. And he struggled with Sean Porter, who was constantly turning him. And you know something? Errol Spence was hit quite regular against Sean Porter, who is known as a volume puncher, but sometimes doesn't always land as often. Maybe not as accurate as a Manny Pacquiao. So what does that mean? Plus, I know Errol Spence is a southpaw, but Pacquiao's a southpaw, right? The hand speed, here's another thing. I think Errol Spence's timing might be better than Keith Thurman, but his hand speed is not as quick as Keith Thurman, and yet Keith Thurman at times was swinging for air early on against Manny Pacquiao. The right hand could not find home for a long time from Keith Thurman in that fight. It couldn't. Right? Timing beats speed, as they say. Now, Errol Spence kept Mikey Garcia, we're going to talk about him in a second, at bay with a jab. He basically won the fight against Mikey Garcia. Everything come through the jab. Everything was set up from Errol Spence at distance. But do you know something? And we saw it again against Jesse Vargas. Mikey Garcia, who fought Jesse Vargas a week ago, Mikey Garcia does not have great ring coverage like Manny Pacquiao. His upper body, his head movement is not as crafty as Manny Pacquiao. You can't just keep Manny Pacquiao at bay with the jab. Mikey Garcia was on the end of it all night and didn't have any ability to move in quick with head and feet to close space. Manny Pacquiao does. I know he's a similar size to Mikey Garcia, but Errol Spence would be fighting something completely different stylistically in Manny Pacquiao to Mikey Garcia. That is a given, right? Errol Spence, yes, I know what people say when they say Mikey Garcia's power, particularly with the right hand, when he fired it straight down the middle against Jesse Vargas, when Jesse Vargas' position in the ring was up against the ropes, dropped Jesse Vargas heavily, right? But the fact that he doesn't have ring coverage meant that he really could not do that or get close enough to Errol Spence to let that accuracy and power and sharpness tell. Pacquiao can. I think Mikey Garcia does punch really hard at any division he's in. But at the end of a jab, it's not much use there. Pacquiao will attempt to close distance. Pacquiao will attempt to turn Errol Spence. Pacquiao will fire with fast hands, providing he's still the Manny Pacquiao of, never mind of old, of a year ago, right? Another thing, Errol Spence couldn't stop Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia come up from 135 pounds for the first time against Errol Spence. This was his debut at welterweight, Mikey Garcia. Errol Spence couldn't stop him. Errol Spence couldn't drop him, right? Will Pacquiao take as much punishment as Errol Spence? Probably not, because if he's giving as good as he's getting, or I should say, will Pacquiao take as much punishment as Mikey Garcia? Maybe not, because when you're on the end of everything and not giving anything back, you're just being hit. It's one-way traffic. But Errol Spence will have to be wary of what's coming his way. That may throw Errol Spence off a little bit. Plus, we do have to consider there were two tough events in Errol Spence's life, and I know you're thinking the obvious one. And that obvious one is the car accident, and thank God he survived and is on the road to recovery. But before that, he had a war with Sean Porter. That was not an easy night for Errol Spence. He was hit multiple times, had to fight in the trenches, had to go to Sean Porter's distance. There was, again, Sean Porter was not Mikey Garcia. He was able to find ring coverage and get close to Errol Spence and make that a phone booth fight. And he gave nearly as good as he got. I scored that fight a draw, to be honest with you. But Errol Spence had a war there. These are the sort of wars that do take that little bit of an edge off a prime fighter. He took body shots, head shots, was mauled by Sean Porter. He really had to go to some dark places to win that fight. It was not easy. I said at Sean Porter, because I think Pacquiao hits harder than Sean Porter. Had Sean Porter had a concussive shot there, he may have dropped Errol Spence a time or two in that fight. Had Sean Porter had a Manny Pacquiao's accuracy, particularly that devastating left hook that Pacquiao has generated many times recently, and of course with him in space when they're close, Errol, would struggle to wrap his arm around to fire a shot against Sean Porter's smaller frame. Now, in a Pacquiao-Errol Spence fight, you haven't only got one good body puncher in Errol Spence. You've got one in Manny Pacquiao. Did he not hurt Adrian Broner to the body? Yes, he did. Did he not hurt Lucas Matisse to the body? Yes, he did. Did he not put Keith Thurman in real dilemma late on in their fight, Manny Pacquiao? Yes, he did. So, who would I go for in a Manny Pacquiao-Errol Spence fight? Do you know something? If there's a fight where... because I think Errol Spence would start as favourite. But if there's a fight that you think, I think I'll go for the underdog here, this might be it. Pacquiao may be the ticket here. Because again, let's say it again. Errol Spence does not have Keith Thurman's hand speed. May have better timing with a jab, but Pacquiao's head movement and ring coverage may neutralise that a bit better than a lot better than Mikey Garcia's did. Right? Errol Spence doesn't have Keith Thurman's foot speed. Right? There were times I was looking at them feet in the Sean Porter fight and I was thinking, my word, they're kind of... I wouldn't go as far as to say Frankenstein feet, but they're not on the level of a Pacquiao Porter. And Pacquiao's got better feet than Sean Porter even. He doesn't maul and grapple like Sean Porter, but he is more precise in what he does than Sean Porter. Errol Spence is a very good boxer. As I've said, he beat Mikey Garcia, not by destroying him, by outboxing him at a distance. But you have to ask the question, is he a better boxer than Manny Pacquiao? When I put all the equations together, it says it all this again for me. The way Errol Spence beats Manny Pacquiao is Father Time comes on Manny Pacquiao. Because if Manny Pacquiao is anything like what we've seen him recently, which, who knows? You can get old overnight. This is why I say we have to go by a fight-by-fight basis when judging Manny Pacquiao. But even the one that fought Brandon Rios years ago, I would favour over Errol Spence. Stylistically. There are guys like, I think Errol Spence potentially stopped Keith Thurman. Pacquiao went the distance. But I think Pacquiao beats Errol Spence stylistically. Much flatter footed. Hand speed, which Pacquiao, by the time that hand is on its way to Manny Pacquiao, everything that he would throw would look slowed down compared to the reflexes of a guy like Manny Pacquiao. He'd see that coming much more than he would see for instance, Keith Thurman shot, who again has faster feet, faster hands. And we also have to say, Keith Thurman fought very rugged in that fight. Pacquiao stood up to it. Right? So we could be talking about a fight where it is not what the experts think it is. And I think that strange things could show up in this fight. Right? We know Pacquiao has fought people on Errol Spence level. But if Pacquiao is at his best, Errol Spence has not fought anything on Manny's level. And this would be the biggest fight still of Errol Spence's career. Would it surprise me if Spence won? No. Because Manny's getting older, but that's the only reason. Right now, some people that fought Errol had this are now thinking this is 50-50. It's that turning that Sean Porter constantly did on Errol Spence. Pacquiao is a master at that. When you come in close and you go to grab him and he sort of gets under your arm and shoulders and spins off to the side. And by the time you turn and you raise your hand, he's throwing combinations to head and body. Well, Porter did that, but Manny does it much more smoother. We've seen that multiple times in the Brandon Rios fight, the Margarito fight. We even seen it with Keith Thurman. And Thurman's feet look flat-footed. If Thurman's feet look flat-footed compared to Manny's, Errol's going to have some problems. Providing Manny is back to being anything like himself. Errol will have problems with that. Right? So that is one angle to look at. I wouldn't write Manny Pacquiao off just yet against Errol Spence. He may just have the style to defeat him. Styles make fights, as they say. Other guy, Mikey Garcia. Well, the first 4 rounds against Jesse Vargas, Mikey Garcia could have been down four rounds to nothing. At best, you could give Mikey Garcia 1 round. That fight was close. Them 2 judges as well were ridiculous. But anyway, I know Manny Pacquiao doesn't have Jesse Vargas' reach because he's a smaller guy. But again, he has the feet to close the space down quickly. Right? Get his shot in and out again. That is as good virtually as having the reach. That is how Pacquiao has managed to overcome lack of reach. And as I said, Pacquiao has head movement, hand speed, and accuracy, right? Plus, he has toughness. But here's the thing, Mikey Garcia has brilliant timing. Now, a guy that beat Manny Pacquiao by knockout was known for brilliant timing. That was Juan Manuel Marquez, right? There were times when Manny Pacquiao stayed up against the ropes against Keith Thurman and parried a lot of shots on the gloves. But Keith Thurman has a tendency to wing shots. Just throw shots out there, right? And they look like arm shots at times. Mikey Garcia is very precise. Watch the shot that dropped Jesse Vargas. It's very precise, very powerful, comes in like a piston. Reminds me of the Vladimir Klitschko right hand that dropped Anthony Joshua. That shot come out of nowhere. It wasn't a lot of arm shots. It wasn't a lot of touching shots, shall we say. That was well placed, right? You can't really hang around on the ropes because Mikey Garcia's right hand will come. And because it's short, once it lands, It has full extension, which, can hurt you more than a punch that is from a bigger guy up close and only partially lands, right? So for me, Pacquiao would have to be wary about not taking rests and having a look at Mikey Garcia on the ropes because of that right hand. It is sharp, it is accurate, it has timing. It does remind me of Marquez somewhat. The thing is though, Pacquiao was on the ropes basically because of Keith Thurman's strength. I'm trying to zap some of Keith Thurman's strength. He did the same with Miguel Cotto. He did the same with Jeff Horn in Australia, made them miss when he was up against the ropes by dodging shots with his arms and his reflexes and so forth. Maybe he won't be in that predicament with Mikey Garcia. Maybe this fight would take place center of the ring and sort of close to mid-distance. But again, Mikey Garcia can't chase Pacquiao. Pacquiao's feet are still better and faster than Mikey Garcia's. He has, again, ring coverage. Mikey Garcia in that fight against Jesse Vargas, I think Jesse Vargas had more power. And he ran out of steam, Jesse Vargas. He was breathing heavy, right? That was a key to him losing focus. And Mikey Garcia did somewhat claw it back. But I felt Mikey Garcia only won that fight very slenderly, right? But even so, Pacquiao still seems to have more fitness than Jesse Vargas. Still seems to have more stamina than Jesse Vargas, right? Hits harder than Jesse Vargas, right? Had Jesse had the power of a Manny or a Errol Spence, I don't think Mikey Garcia could have got close. Because the power of Spence on the jab made Mikey Garcia also weary. You have to remember as well, Mikey Garcia was taking a lot of those jabs and power shots from Jesse Vargas to the body. Now Pacquiao will fire that left hand down there. He will. He's done it in 3 or 4 consistent fights now, right? That will take some wind out of Mikey Garcia, let me tell you. Mikey Garcia doesn't have fast head movement. You've got to have fast head movement, timed to perfection, against a guy with accurate hands and fast hands. Some of the fastest hands in the history of the sport, and they're still quick now. I can't see Mikey Garcia staying out of the way of those combinations. Not with his flat-footedness, not with his lack of head movement up top. Pacquiao has to worry again about his accuracy and his timing, but Mikey Garcia will have to get Manny to the ropes to do that. When they are up close and grappling, Mikey Garcia is going to find out that he won't have the strength advantage over Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao has been used to fighting at welterweight against much stronger guys for years now. So all of the great stuff, and it is great. Mikey Garcia has some great stuff. May be neutralized because Mikey Garcia just doesn't have the foot speed to execute him. So when Manny makes an exchange and then backs out, Mikey Garcia can't suddenly be in Manny's face the way 1-1-1 Marquez was. Marquez answered with an answer. When Pacquiao gives an answer, Mikey Garcia won't be in range to respond to the answer, if that makes sense, because I think Marquez had faster feet. Right? But I could see Mikey Garcia struggling with the speed, the foot speed, the hand speed up top. I could see him struggling with Pacquiao's strength. If it is the Pacquiao against Keith Thurman that turns up again against Mikey Garcia, should that fight happen, I see Mikey Garcia in a bit of trouble, to be honest with you. So I think maybe style-wise, these two guys may suit Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao said that he found that Spence was more of the boxer in his interview recently, and Mikey Garcia was more of the aggressor. Well, Pacquiao would like Mikey Garcia to be aggressive, and you also have to imagine the last two guys, the guys that an aggressive fighter that was more Manny's size recently, he was still bigger than Manny, but only slightly, was Lucas Matisse. You saw the benefits Manny had of fighting an aggressive style that was of a similar size to him. He will benefit fighting Mikey Garcia, who again is smaller than Lucas Matisse actually. Pacquiao will benefit fighting Mikey Garcia, who, if he chooses to be aggressive, exchanges with him. Because Manny won't have to worry about any big guy leaning on him, any grappling. If Mikey Garcia chooses to grapple, Manny will be more than able to handle it. Adrian Broner could not really do much physically with Manny Pacquiao because, again, he was a similar size. The success that we've seen from Jeff Horn, well, we call it success, was when he was able to use size and strength and, rough Manny Pacquiao up somewhat. Keith Thurman wasn't fighting like that, but you could see the Keith Thurman strength and size as the fight wore on. Manny won this more by, sheer will, skill, determination, and planting shots well at the right time. His elite, world-class qualities shone. Right? But Mikey Garcia has none of that, what a Jeff Horn has or a Keith Thurman has. He's more likely to have physically things in common with an Adrian Broner and a Lucas Matisse. And he will get hit more than Adrian Broner because Adrian Broner just shelled up against Pacquiao. He took that left hand and then them defenses came back. Now, Mikey Garcia beat Adrian Broner very soundly. But because Mikey Garcia actually does throw some shots, again, he's sort of low volume, but it's still more volume than Adrian Broner. But because Pacquiao will be hitting him that often, he'll have to open up. And Mikey Garcia is more of I want to win attitude than survive attitude. That will make him easier to hit than an Adrian Broner who was being outworked, but was nicely tucked up, safe, and defensively sound. Or sounder, I should say. Let's face it, we'd all tip, wouldn't we? We'd all pick Keith Thurman to beat Adrian Broner. Keith Thurman is a better welterweight than Adrian Broner. But who was the guy that hit the canvas? That's right, Keith Thurman. Why? Because Keith Thurman came to win. Keith Thurman isn't just worrying about defense, he's worrying about offense. He's looking for that, as he used to call it, one-time punch. You have to throw punches to get that one-time punch. Right? Had Adrian Broner opened up, Pacquiao would have knocked him out. But Adrian Broner's instincts is not to open up. Keith Thurman nearly got stopped because he opened up. But again, Keith Thurman beats Adrian Broner. But because there are gaps, because Keith Thurman is leaving gaps because he's taking risks, Pacquiao was able to take advantage and drop Keith Thurman nearly twice with that body shot as well. Mikey Garcia, at least opening up more than Adrian Broner, will be caught against Manny Pacquiao and hurt potentially more than Adrian Broner was. We also have to add on that Adrian Broner, one thing he has got apart from his defense is his chin is very good. Is Keith Thurman, again, Keith Thurman beats Adrian Broner. Mikey Garcia clearly beat Adrian Broner. Do these two guys necessarily have better chins than Adrian Broner? I don't know. See, it's more than just one thing how you measure a fight up. Fighters are designed with different attributes, even if one or two, A or B or C. If A is better than C, it still doesn't mean that C doesn't have things better when he faces a big puncher than the other guy. Adrian Broner could deal with defense and his chin better than Keith Thurman. Now, Keith Thurman had more success as the rounds went on than Adrian Broner did, but again, that was because he was taking chances. Mikey Garcia may win a round or two more than Adrian Broner v Pacquiao, but he will take more lumps than Adrian Broner. I think Mikey Garcia will get dropped. We also have to add into effect the southpaw stance, and it's a quick southpaw stance. It's not a cagey boxer, Zab Judah type southpaw stance Manny Pacquiao fights with. It's broken rhythm. Sometimes you know what he's going to do, you just don't know when it's going to happen. That is very difficult to deal with. This unorthodoxness about Manny Pacquiao. And I don't just mean in terms of stances. So Mikey Garcia and, to an extent, Errol Spence, they've got it all to do. And again, is anybody telling me that Errol Spence's defense is better than Floyd Mayweather's? I can't see it, to be honest with you. And even Floyd Mayweather took some shots v Pacquiao. Some shots that knocked him back. If he's taking them, Spence is going to have to deal with something. So will Mikey Garcia. Where will this fight take place? They're talking Saudi Arabia, but who knows? Is Pacquiao going to be with Eddie Hearn, or is he going to stay with Al Heyman? Will he even end up fighting Terence Crawford and Bob Arum comes back into the picture? Again, I think Terence Crawford may be a little bewildered, at least early, against Pacquiao's speed, because he's not faced that type of speed. He may also be surprised by Manny Pacquiao's toughness, because Pacquiao still is much more rugged than an Amir Khan. Pacquiao's ring boxing IQ is still stronger than an Amir Khan. Amir Khan is a repetitive fighter, a very good repetitive fighter. But before long, you kind of know when he's going to do it, how he's going to do it, and when it's going to come. With Pacquiao, you don't. He makes more adjustments than Amir Khan. And I know Terence Crawford is a switch hitter, but where you switch, you're fighting a southpaw, which is difficult anyway. But Pacquiao has been used to fighting orthodox fighters all his career. So when Crawford switches to southpaw, he's in Manny's favoured area, which is the southpaw stance, because he is a southpaw. But then when he switches to orthodox, Pacquiao is used to fighting orthodox fighters. These two, it is interesting. It is interesting. But anyway, there's 1,000,001 things I could talk about, but how much can you say in one video? I'm more or less going to end it here. But interesting times for Pacquiao coming up, and should be interesting, should be fascinating. This is Champions of Champions Boxing Talk. I'm out, brother.